Welcome to episode 12 of your English Voice, a free experience inside the world of English con Victoria to help you sound as clear, confident, and professional in English as you do in Spanish. Every week, I've brought you short, potent trainings that help you amplify your global presence and own your English voice. This is our last episode, and it is a very potent one because we are going to talk about emotional regulation so that you can speak English fluently and finally own your English voice. Today, we are diving into a very important concept. To truly develop high level communication skills in English, you don't just need grammar, vocabulary, knowledge of the language. You also need to know how the brain works. And that also means understanding how your emotional state affects your level of clarity, fluency, and confidence in professional settings. So, by the end of this episode, you will understand the following: how status and the fear of losing it affect your performance in English and at work, how uncertainty impacts your brain and your ability to communicate clearly, why belonging is crucial for collaboration and building trust, practical strategies to regulate yourself and others to improve communication. I will also include some inbuilt language tips so that you are not just learning amazing things about the brain, but you're also expanding your vocabulary in English. And so let's get started by talking about status and also the fear of losing it. So, we mentioned some of these ideas in an earlier episode, but I want to reinforce these concepts because they are really important and they truly matter. So, if you are one of these persons who are afraid of making mistakes in front of others, if you always want to be right, if you don't really like to apologize because you feel that your status is decreased, you are being hijacked by your brain, by the need to maintain a high status, because when you have high status you have a lot of benefits. We all know that by now. So when your brain perceives a threat in your status, it will react with its defense mechanism, also known as the fight, flight, or freeze response. And when this happens, we know that we lose access to our knowledge. And most importantly, we can't think very clearly. And that leads us to making a lot of mistakes, creating the wrong connections, and even thinking at times that everyone is against us. So, when your prefrontal cortex doesn't have all the resources that needs to perform at its best, you might forget words. You might struggle to express your ideas clearly, and your overall performance will be negatively affected. Now, let me give you some language to help you speak more clearly when you are under this threat state. I want to clarify what I mean. I want to clarify what I mean. Let me rephrase that to make it clearer. Let me rephrase that to make it clearer. Could you please explain that again? Could you please explain that again? Let's move on to our next topic, which is uncertainty and anxiety. So, uncertainty can happen when you don't have enough information about a situation. This can happen, for example, when your boss schedules a meeting with you and there is no agenda. You are expected to speak in English, but you don't know the topic in advance. In these situations, your brain will react with anxiety if you don't feel very comfortable or confident in your English skills. Now, one simple solution to this scenario is just to ask for the information, and you can use this language to do so. Could you give me more details about? Could you give me more details about? I'd like to understand the expectations for this task. I'd like to understand the expectations for this task. Can we clarify the agenda before the meeting? Can we clarify the agenda before the meeting? These expressions will help you reduce that uncertainty threat and also show up as someone who is proactive. So now that we talked about uncertainty and anxiety, let's move on to our third topic, which is belonging and collaboration. So, belonging is a key need for the brain. We talked about this in earlier episodes where we described some of the primary needs of the brain. Belonging is also about trust and connection with your team. Without it, your brain might label others as competitors or even enemies, which will eventually lead to poor communication and mistakes. So, especially in multicultural teams, it is essential to build this sense of belonging within the members of the team. So, one of the ways that you can increase your sense of belonging is by speaking up. People want to hear you, people want to get to know you. So, one of the ways that you can do so is by looking for things that you share in common and creating that sense of friendship, even though you might not feel like they are good friends, but yes, people you can collaborate very well with. Another strategy is to think or actually highlight, underscore the fact that you are all working towards the same goal. This will reinforce that sense of belonging and help everyone work smarter and not harder, and your English will be more fluent. I promise you. Here are some useful phrases for belonging. I appreciate your input on this. I appreciate your input on this. I'm looking forward to collaborating with you. I'm looking forward to collaborating with you. How can I support you on this project? How can I support you on this project? These phrases strengthen trust and teamwork while giving you professional English language. So now that we talked about status, we talked about uncertainty and anxiety, and also about belonging and successful collaboration, let's move on to how we can regulate our state, but also other people's emotional state. So, all that we are learning about our own brain is also true about your colleague's brain. So, what you want to start becoming more and more aware is about your own triggers. Now, when you recognize you're being triggered, now try to give a label to it, put it into one of these categories. Is it because there is uncertainty? Is it because you're perceiving a decrease in your status? Is it because you don't feel a sense of belonging? Just by being able to put a label on to these emotional states will help you reduce that emotional heightened state and give you more access more resources to your prefrontal cortex. After you do this, you can use this technique that is called cognitive reappraisal, which requires you to see the situation from another lens, from another perspective. This is not always very easy, but it's worth that you train it because you want to be in a regulated state at work, because it will not only make your English a lot more fluent, clear, and on point, accurate, but also it will give you more resources to be more efficient and productive at work. Now, when you see someone who is also triggered, you want to accommodate your language, how you show up, so the other person can be affected by how calm you are and your words. So you can use these type of expressions. I understand your perspective. I understand your perspective. Let's find a solution together. Let's find a solution together. What would you suggest as the next step? What would you suggest as the next step? So these are expressions that will help you make the other person more comfortable and also safer in your presence. Now, mastering emotional regulation and knowledge of the brain improves your English and your communication skills at work. So, in your learning strategy, I just don't want you to only focus on learning more English, but I also want you to learn it through very strategic and intentional topics, such as knowing about your brain, learning about your brain. And this is exactly what we do inside my private containers. In all of my mentorships, we focus on one of these soft skills that are essential for you to navigate in global professional settings with confidence, with strategy, with skills. So, if you want to go deeper into so many things, so many skills that you will need in your global career, join my private containers. I will leave all the information down below so you can check it out. And I also want to say congratulations. You made it to the last episode. I'm so proud of you. And I know that just by knowing everything that we saw in these short potent trainings, that you will have a completely different perspective on how you can take the right steps to master your English and to own your English voice. Thank you so much for joining me in this season, and I would love to know what were your key takeaways. Let me know, share with me what you're working on, what resonated with you, what are you going to embrace and implement. And if you want to be part of my private containers, of course, check all the links down below. I will be so happy to have you there. Thank you and see you in another video, of course. Bye bye.